Hello, I'm live. Today is the 19th of February 2025 and I'm reading again Prelude to the Landing on Planet Earth. I'm at the 4th chapter now, entitled EXITS, and I had to stop after the first reading because these are longer chapters. This is about a journey through the Middle East in the 70s. This was published in 1977 by STUART HOLROYD, who had sat in with the sessions, the channeling sessions of the management, preparing the planet Earth, but not on all sessions. So he received all the tapes and everything to compose this book, and explains the people who were involved initially. The spokesman for the management has now appeared, Tom. Diana has worked with Assagioli, who was an Italian scientist who did lots of experiments, and Bobby, who was meant to be the third in the trio, has decided not to be working with them, so far anyway. It was all work that would require some funding, and though John felt that his problem and his frustrations melted away when he thought about them, they were to recur at intervals in the future. The management seemingly understood and appreciated that Andrija and John had both resolved personal problems that had been affecting their work, for on the night of the 20th of July they held a party to celebrate the reaffirmation of their commitment. Early in this session, which was to be the weirdest they had had to date, and one of the longest, Tom said, "This room is filled with our people this evening. We have come to surround you with protection and with light." Because of the large number of extraterrestrials present, they were given to understand questions on a wide variety of topics would be able to dealt with promptly, and they proceeded to take advantage of this situation. Among the points of information that their questions elicited in the course of the next hour were the following: that a certain chemical element taken in very minute doses has the property of heightening psychic powers. Both the element and its organic source were identified by name, but as it is a poison and has to be handled with great care, I have judged it advisable to withhold these details from the present narrative. That the structure of Christianity is in decline and will continue to decline, but there are groups within Christianity who disagree with the dogmatic aspects of the religion and will preserve its essential core. That the management have people attempting to do the work that is necessary, placed in all the governments of the major countries and the world except the Chinese. That the US and Russian governments had had a secret agreement for many years to suppress information about UFO sightings and contacts, but they were now going to be put under increasing pressure by people demanding release of official information. That the telephone lines of the Ossining House were tapped by government agencies, but that there was no need to worry because we know how to erase. That the most reliable esoteric writings were those of the Tibetan, channeled through Mrs. Alice Bailey. That the group working with Yuri was still optimistic about getting him to come back into service, but we cannot make him change his decision. We can only try to inspire, and if his ego is not tempered, there is not much we can do. Some other minor bits of information were conveyed. Then Tom said, "All of our people are now smiling. We are all around you. This room is filled. This house is filled. And the top of your house is filled. We are very happy to be with you. You must understand that this is a party in your world. Perhaps John and I should address ourselves to this marvelous multitude and tell them how we feel, Andrija said. They must like to address themselves to you. They would like to address themselves to you, Tom said, and after a short pause he delivered a celebratory speech. All this array of people and beings, because we are people, as you are people, is a gathering of all that have worked for many hundreds and thousands of your years in order to help you. Whether you realize this or not, we have come the farthest that we have ever come in order to help mankind. We are all very excited and exhilarated with being close to the completion of our project. In your time it is short, but in our time it has been very long, and we realize how short it has now become. As I look around this group that has gathered in your home, on top of your home and outside your home, I see nothing but joy and peace and love that is being generated to all of you. And with all of this power that we bring to you and this love, we cannot fail in this mission. There will be no way that we can fail in this mission, because at this time we have also on the planet Earth new physical beings that will help to see that we do not fail. This we have never had before. We have never had the communication system that you now have, the awareness that you now have, and the openness that you now have. We are sad that some of you fail. But remember, in the past everything failed, so we expect a casualty rate. We do not like it, but we know that this is so. We would like you to keep in your hearts the understanding that this is an honest and sincere effort and a pure love that we have for you beings. Profoundly moved, Andrija asked the reason for the celebration at this particular time and was told. The cosmic event that is going on is because of the final acceptance by our council that our project will be completed. This came about due to the work of you three. We are having a party of joy. You must use the expression dancing in the streets. Moreover, the immediate course of the celebration was the fact that the decision Andrija and John had individually made that morning would enable the work to be accelerated and ensure its eventual success. We would like your permission to introduce the being to many that have come, Tom said at the conclusion of the session. They agreed, and there was a pause of a couple of minutes before Tom said that the session should now be ended and Phyllis brought back. Andrija slowly brought her out of trance, and when she was finally conscious, Phyllis spoke with undisguised excitement and awe about the experience she had just been through. She kept saying there weren't the words to describe it, but she managed to convey something of her vision in a series of exclamations. My God, Andrija! They were outside this place. It was beautiful. It was absolutely glowing. And there were ledges, and there were all kinds of people, but they weren't physical. And in this glow, I was on the top of your house, and all these people were surrounding this whole house, and they were smiling, beaming. The ledges were all around your house. What did they look like? Andrija said. Were they like people? No, not like people, not really. She struggled to find words. They had different forms, as if they came from different planets or galaxies or something. But they all had a smile. They were laughing and giggling, and they were like kids that were bubbling over and never had just got too much of something or other. But there were some with long robes, and one took me by the hand and said, "We want you to know how many are working with you." And there were thousands and thousands and thousands. The ones in red were looking on like fathers or grandfathers, looking at their children and saying with great pride, done it. The higher one had such pride in their people. And I explained what happened in the communication about the party and the reason for it. And now at the end, Tom had asked permission to take Phyllis to meet their people. What lasts my mind out, he said, is that there we are, just three ordinary little schmoes, and the council of the super galaxy chooses to drop in. They all laughed. It was just too incredible and beautiful, utterly preposterous, but totally believable. Because at the time, none of them had expected anything like this. And as Phyllis in trance was always quite oblivious to what she channeled, the correspondences between her experiences and what Tom had said were sufficient proof for Andrija and John that there really had been this intergalactic gathering of beings around them. There seemed no other way of expressing their mixed feelings of delight and amazement than by laughter. Lyle had arrived that morning as arranged, but because of his decision not to get involved in the work of the group, he had not participated in this session. He had spent the past month in London and had his home in Bermuda, and had devoted a lot of thought to the work of the Ascending group and the questions of his own commitment and future work. Basically, he explained to me some time later, he felt that he had to remain a loner and could not work as a member of a group. His training and expertise were as a naturalist and biologist, and he felt that the Earth had marvels and mysteries enough to engage him, and despite all the evidence, he could never be quite comfortable with the idea of intelligent super beings from elsewhere intervening in Earth's affair. Nor could he see how he could ever be entirely satisfied that the communications came from an external source and not from the unconscious of one or more of the people involved. His respect for Andrija as a scientist was immense, but he was convinced that he was also a shaman, a magic man, as he said, and was the key figure in the story. I took the opportunity to ask Lyle about the puzzling appearances of the will. That really was a mystery, but he was not prepared to take it as proof positive of the existence of the management. He had investigated the incident. The will had been drawn up by solicitors in Johannesburg, who said that they had received instructions from him by telephone. They had then posted the will to his home in Bermuda, and it had come back with his signature on it, whereupon they had forwarded it to his parents. But Lyle said he had not made the phone call, had not signed the document, and had not even been in Bermuda at the time when he was supposed to have returned it from there. He didn't see how anyone could have contrived such an elaborate hoax, or could have done so, and he admitted that it looked like a materialization event, conceived and executed by some intelligence, but even so, it didn't prove anything, and he was content to shelf it as an unresolved and probably insoluble mystery. His work in the Philippines and in Indonesia had accustomed him to living with the insoluble and the imponderable. So Lyle was no longer a participant in the communications, though he remained for several days at Ossining as a guest. On the day following the party, John and Andrija retired in the evening with Phyllis to Andrija's room to conduct another session which revolved around two questions that Andrija put to Tom at the start. What had been going on elsewhere on the planet the night before to cause the celebration, and what precisely was meant by preparing mankind for the landing? The first question, Tom indicated, showed that they still did not fully appreciate the importance of their role. They had to understand, difficult though it was to accept, that together the three of them constituted the energy core for the work of transformation that was going to be done on the planet. Their function was that of a trigger or a catalyst, and the previous night there was not so much a global awareness as there was in the three of you, a true commitment made. They had to remember too that they were really beings from another level who had chosen to come to Earth to do this work. John asked about his specific role. He well understood that Andrija and Phyllis had special abilities and experience to equip them for the work, but he didn't really understand what his contribution could be. Your balance and support for these two will be your main role, Tom said. Your love, your logic, and your balance. Andrija and Phyllis, because of their past work and experience, were in the habit of questioning, checking, and looking for proofs, which was right and good up to a point, but could be overdone, and John would serve the purpose of being more open and helping them to see that there are other things besides their constant striving for positive proof, so that they will not be trapped. Andrija should not be so concerned as he was about the immensity of the task, or feel that he alone was responsible for its accomplishment. We have set many things in motion on your planet. There will be many that will come to you. Doors will be opened. The advancement of knowledge will be very rapid. We will put these things into motion. We are helping you, Doctor. You have had knowledge and you've had faith in us for many years. Now, have a little more faith and understand that this will not have to be done by you alone, as it has in the past. In answer to Andrija's question about the meaning of preparing mankind for the landing, Tom now gave a detailed description of the nature and purpose of the event. The landing would be a physical, visible event that would take place all over the planet over a period of 9 days. Many different types of craft would land, and beings would descend from them and be among the men. Some would remain on Earth as teachers, and some would go on after a while to work in other areas, for then the planet Earth would have begun to evolve in its truest sense. Thinking of the landing at the second coming as the second coming, John asked, will the beings that remain collectively represent the Christ, or will the Christ be among them? You must remember that all of you and all of us have the Christ within us, Tom said. It will be a collective consciousness. Man is now coming out of the true dark ages of the planet and becoming aware of the existence of other life forms in other parts of the universe. Men have always assumed that there was someone sitting up there, taking care of their problems, but they also assumed through their ego that they were the only existence, and that this being called God was only concerned with them. Man now has to understand that there are other forms of life, and that the universe does not revolve or evolve just around man. The beings that were going to come to Earth would bring technologies that would help man deal with some of the problems he was faced with. But their main purpose would be what we would call a spiritual one. It would be to raise the vibration of the souls, to bring them out of darkness. And when we say darkness, we do not mean negativity, but true darkness, for they do not see and do not understand the cosmic, and they also do not understand that when they hate and when they are angry, this creates a problem for the universe. Only by raising the level of the consciousness of this planet and perfecting the love and the core that is inside each human being can we go on then to perfect other planets in the galaxies. This planet is one of the lowest that the soul comes to learn as a lesson. The tragedy of this planet is its density. It is like a mire. It is sticky, and these beings get trapped in this stickiness. With your help, we are going to raise the level of this planet, make it a lighter planet. The energy then coming from it will be sent into the universe and will help raise the level of consciousness and the levels of other planets. We have spoken to you before of this being and young Bobby and their relationship in the etheric, your planet will be raised to that type of vibration. To prepare man for the landing, Tom now explained in specific answer to Andrija's question, meant to nullify his fear of other beings and bring him to awareness of their existence. The group must use their own initiative and knowledge of the world to work towards this end, but they would be helped in some ways. For instance, there was the project to interfere with the electronics of mass communications. This would make people ask questions, and at the time of the landing, the most stubborn non-believers would remember the interferences and thus be prepared to begin to understand what was going on. John and Andrija thanked Tom for this elucidation of the cosmic plan and their role in it. Tom then asked if they had any further questions, and Andrija took the opportunity to raise the question of the proposed healing of Roberto Assagioli. Tom said that the healing could and should be done. It would require a number of sessions and the combined energies of 3 couples, Bobby and Phyllis, John and Diana, and Andrija and another female. But a distant healing would take a long time, and it would be best if they could work on Assagioli at his home in Italy. Andrija said that this was no problem and they would arrange to make the trip in the near future. Tom stressed that the most essential preliminary would be to secure Bobby's cooperation. It was partly on account of this that John and Phyllis went down to Diona Beach the following day. Also, in an earlier communication, Tom had said that John should go and talk to Bobby, and it was not necessary for Andrija to be present. So he did so, and was delighted to find Tom's information confirmed. Bobby was willing to work with the group again and to join them on the trip to Italy to work on Assagioli. Meanwhile, he and Phyllis would work together in Orlando for 2 or 3 weeks and then go up to Ossining, where it was proposed that they should all gather to hold further communications the 2nd week in August. Right, I'll make here a break and continue it anon.